First, we're going to take a look at the fundamentals of the planche. Now, arm position is very important for the planche, and we'd like to have our elbow pits facing forward. Taking a look at the hand placement, with your fingers facing forward, it's okay to have the heel of your hand coming up slightly off the ground, but you don't want it coming up too much. So try and keep the heel of the hand down, but rotate your elbow pits forward. If you do have trouble with the wrist, feel free to turn your fingers out to the side slightly. And there's other different positions that you can use for the planche. For example, having your fingers out to the side. And likewise, some people like to turn their hands all the way to the back when performing the planche. Something that might help you if you do turn your fingers to the back is to place your hands a little further apart. Instead of having a flat back, we want to round the back and pull the shoulders back and down as we lean forward for the planche position. This is going to help strengthen the entire shoulder so that we can progress up to some of the more advanced planche variations. In this position, lean forward and place the weight to the front. This is the basic position that we want to first focus on in order to get a feel for what needs to happen within the planche. Again, you can feel free to turn your hands back around if need be. Find a position that's good for you. There is no set position necessarily for the planche, and remember, if you need to widen your hands, that's perfectly fine. The important thing though is to make sure that you lock out your arms and push down and through the ground. I like to have my hands about shoulder width apart and keep my fingers facing forward. Just remember, rotate your elbow pits forward and lock out your arms. So important. Let's take a look at some of the progressions leading up to the open tuck planche. The first progression we have is the basic plank lean. Now this will have our toes curled under, but as you get comfortable, place your toes underneath so that you're on top of your feet and leaning forward. Once you get that, then you can start to lean forward even further. Remember, push down and away from the ground and eventually get to be where you're on top of your toes. Next, you can straddle and lean even further forward. Lock the arms out, turning the elbow pits forward, and gradually work to be able to do this on top of your toes. Once you get that on the floor, then you can take your legs up a bit higher. You can use a chair. Here, Kirsty is using a block, but you can go through the same progressions that we were doing on the floor in order to further strengthen this planche lean position. Now this doesn't need to be a static hold. You can also do this by pulsing in and out of that particular position for repetitions. The next variation is placing your feet up on a block and bending your legs. Now this adds more weight to the hold and allows you to get stronger with the planche tuck lean. So another variation, of course, is finally getting to the point where your toes are just barely on that block. Remember, push down and away from the ground and lock those arms out. Here, Kirsty is showing a crane variation, and this is where we're using some support in order to get our knees onto our arms so that we can gradually move directly into the crow pose. Arms are completely locked out, elbow pits forward, and you can also use the P-bars if you're having trouble with your wrist, gradually working on taking one knee off, and this is working towards a floating crane, or sometimes otherwise known as the full tuck. Now, once you get to the point where you can perform this by pulling one knee off at a time, here I'm using the P-bars, you can then gradually work on doing without having your knees on there, and this is what we're working towards. Another fun variation is doing the straddle, but bringing one leg up off of the ground. This is a pretty tough variation. Just remember, work through the other variations before you get up into this. And finally, you can do with the straddle and pull one knee up towards your chest. This is getting us stronger so that we're going to be able to perform the open tuck position. Another variation I really like is starting in a straddle and pulling the knees up to the chest as much as possible, gradually working in to the floating crane position or the tuck planche. This is a great one. Gradually work into this. Don't worry about holding it very long in the beginning. Work on increasing repetitions to be able to go in and out of this particular position. Here's another video that I think you'll like. Check it out and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already.